I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. Oh, this is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 101. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Tardello, coming to you on Thursday, June 1st. We're already in June. And Texas State's recruiting class is into the 50s. 51 to be exact. Still climbing? Maybe. We'll find out. We'll talk about it all today. No guest today. Just talking Texas State recruiting. A little bit of baseball, but mainly some Texas State recruiting with summer workouts coming in and everything. But before we get there, this episode is sponsored by Austin Patchmaster. Austin.patchmaster.com. Do you have any cracks in your ceilings or walls? You have some popcorn ceiling you need removed? Or did you celebrate a little too hard after a recent Texas State victory and just punch a hole in your wall and need it fixed? Well, call my guys at Austin Patchmaster. They'll fix you. Anything drywall related, they got you. Austin metro areas where they service, but if you're in the Dallas, Houston area, it's a franchise, so they can give you a referral to someone out there. But hit up my guys over there. Michael Clements, a Texas State grad, a Texas State sicko. Thank you to him for sponsoring the pod. You can reach out at 512-200-3888. That's 512-200-3888. And again, that's austin.patchmaster.com. Thanks again to them and Michael Clements. We're also sponsored by the WNOGB merch website, WNOGB.com. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent, now on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can see me showing off a pretty sweet Texas State shirt, or I'm sorry, a Win Now or Get Bent shirt. We don't have the Texas State licensing, so that was a Freudian slip. I want it, maybe one day. I got a mug here as well. This is why we took so long doing product testing. As you can see, the logo's on the front. When we first order them. If you order the ones on the website, you got one on each side. We got one on the front. It's good for showing off on a podcast, showing the camera right there, but not the mug you'd get on that website. This is a defect, if you will. So I'll keep it for myself. There you go. There's some merch there. We've got more stuff coming right now. It's just the 3 shirts, the mug. We're going to add some more stuff. I want some Texas State sicko stuff going up there. Something to identify you guys out there whenever I see you in the shirt, more than just the logo. We're going to have more fun ideas coming up, so make sure to keep checking in at WNOGB.com, and we'll keep updating you here as well on that. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get to the Bobcats. We'll go with baseball first, just to talk about it, because it's, like I said, it's a big recruiting class, and we're gonna go through it. I'm not sure if they're done. Doesn't seem like it from what I hear. Already at 51, so a lot to unpack, and we're going to unpack it today on this episode. But first off, baseball, they did lose in the Sun Belt tournament. Their season is done. They did not advance to a regional after that loss. It was the 5th straight loss, Louisiana. They got swept towards the end of the regular season. They lost in the first round tournament. Had a nice win right after that. Got a walk-off win by Dalen Pena. And then they lost again to Louisiana to end that season. A lot of us aren't accustomed for the Texas State baseball season being done in June, especially after what we witnessed last season. So it's a little bit of a disappointment, but still a pretty good season from those guys. I mean, I think we got some new stars like Chase Mora, really just hitting it out of the park. And I'm excited. I'm excited for Texas State baseball for, what they're trying to do with that baseball complex, and big donations coming in from guys like Tyler Sibley, former player. So I think it's in good hands, but that's a wrap. That's it for the season. Softball's done as well. Shoot, all we have is recruiting at this point. I think track and field might still be doing some stuff, but we should check in more on them. But yeah, like I was saying, like I've been saying, 51 new Bobcats for Texas State. If you really crunch those numbers, that's a 61.3% turnover rate. It means they only have 33 scholarship players from last season still on this roster. That may not even be an exact number. There may be some guys, as we've talked about, that have graduated and just moved on from football after spring practice that we don't know about. But for as far as I know, it's around 33 scholarship guys from last season and 51 new scholarship guys coming in. So more new scholarship players than old ones. It's going to be a brand new team. I mean, this is like 2 recruiting classes in one. This 51, it's pretty incredible what they've done. 2 more this week, I guess. I talked about they're at 49 for the last episode, but Danny Valenzuela, we've talked about him, center from Arizona State. He has committed. He was one of those 4 centers that they offered last week. I know I saw Will Lees committed somewhere else. Don't know about the other 2 centers, but they got their guy in Danny Valenzuela. It's definitely in need of a center after Silence Robinson entered the portal to start out spring practice after entering it as the number 1 center, quickly hopping into the portal and off to Incarnate Word. Part of that, the mini player and mini player swap that has happened there. I mean, Sammy Obiang is also an Incarnate Word. And of course, there's 9 new Bobcats from Incarnate Word as well, 6 coaches. So it's interesting, the swap going on there, but they've got their center, Danny Valenzuela. I mean, they were trying other guys in the spring. It just wasn't working out. Snaps weren't there. So I feel pretty safe in saying he's going to come in and probably be the number 1 center, unless they're looking at some of these other offensive linemen, 12 offensive linemen in that 51. 12 of them are offensive linemen. So maybe there's some of those other interior offensive linemen like Chase Todd. He's the Houston transfer. You got Marcus Alexander. He's from Oklahoma. Maybe they're looking at them at center. Don't know for sure. Total speculation from me. But besides that, I think this is the one true center that they've brought in. So it's a need that they needed to fill. The 51st one is a bit of a surprise position-wise for me at tight end. They're bringing in SMU tight end Simon Gonzalez. Speaking of switching players with teams, Micah Hilt's going off to SMU, so they're switching right there. Similar careers, Hiltz had more production here at Texas State than Gonzalez did at SMU and Texas Tech before SMU. He started out at Texas Tech, transferred to SMU. I think he even visited Texas State when he was in high school as well. He had dealt with a lot of injuries, didn't really see the field too much. I think he got in like 5 games in 2021. Registered at 1 catch for 11 yards. So it's injuries have really kept him off, but he also seems more of the traditional tight end than Hiltz. Hiltz is obviously at 6'5", very athletic guy. He's a pass catcher more so. You look at Simon Gonzalez, and he's more like that, the blocking build and that type of skill set. So it's a maybe that's what they're looking for, and that's why they're fine switching Hiltz for Gonzalez. But may each find success in their new home. But they're switching around there. But that gives them 51. Like I said earlier, that's 12 offensive linemen, 11 defensive backs, 10 defensive linemen, 7 wide receivers, 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, 3 linebackers, 2 running backs, and a partridge in a pear tree. I mean, spread out across the board position-wise. They filled all the needs. They have completely turned this team over into a brand new roster. Looking here, I had just to kind of go over how big this class is. There was a really great thread from Chris Coots. He's the media relations director for Texas State. I deal with him quite a lot. I've talked about him before. He's a great guy. He's does a lot of crunches the numbers, stats, all that good stuff. And he put out a good thread the other day, and it was before 247 Sports updated Texas State's commit list. Now it has all 51 on 247 Sports. If you go check out their commits out there, free plug for 247 Sports. Used to work for them at one point, but they have since updated it since this thread. So I updated it myself, some of the numbers that he put in there, because he wanted to look at of the 24 first-year coaches out there, FBS head coaches, how does G.J. Kinney stack up against some of the other teams? He didn't specifically say G.J. Kinney, but he did, Texas State, and he put them in a list with some of these other teams with a first-year coach. But so for these 24 first-year FBS coaches, the average size of the newcomer class is 33. The newcomers recruiting class, sorry. is 33. P5, it's 38. G5, it's 28. Texas State is number 2 at 51. Colorado is number 1 at 70. Deion Sanders, he's got it cooking up there. Third is Arizona State at 47. And Auburn is 4th at 41. Now, before with Coots' thread, it says 43. It was before it was updated 251 on 247 Sports. So, again, that's the average size of the newcomer class is 33. Texas State's at 51. Average number of incoming transfers, 15 is the average number. For the P5 teams, it's 19. For the G5, it's 11. For Texas State, it's 37, which is second, again, behind Colorado, who's 49. Third is Arizona State at 27 and Louisville at 24. So that's just incoming transfers alone, 37 for Texas State, 37 incoming transfers. Average number of P5 transfers coming in for these 24 first-year coaches, 10. The P5 coaches, 12. The G5, 7. Texas State's 4th on this list at 17. Colorado, again, number 1 at 26. Louisville, number 2 at 20. And Arizona State at 18. Let's see. And then the average number of FBS transfers is 13. P5 teams at 16. G5, it's 10. For Texas State, they're number 2 on this list for FBS transfers at 24. 24 of the 37 transfers that they have are FBS transfers. Colorado leads that with 35 FBS transfers. 70-man class, 35 of them are FBS. Deion's cooking up there. So is Texas State, and so is GJ. Arizona State's 3rd on that list of FBS transfers at 23. Louisville with 22. Auburn at 19. So that's 13 FCS transfers as well for Texas State. That's second behind Colorado with 14. Deion and GJ both coming from FCS schools. So that one makes a little more sense there with that. But that's incredible to just look at the size of the classes and to see Texas State on a list with like Colorado, Arizona State, Auburn to get in there. I mean, when we're talking about the 24 new coaches, G5 and P5, and you look at the top of that list, and Texas State's right up there with other P5s. So that's impressive. And I mentioned it earlier, 17 P5 transfers for the Texas State, which is pretty incredible. Let's go through it. We're going to go through all 51. We're going to say all 51 names on this episode and talk a little bit about them because I took meticulous notes now that we're starting to wind down. But I'll be honest, I've heard they're actually looking at a couple more. So this class is probably going to settle at 53. Like I've been saying all spring and everything. I keep hearing it's fluid. Now it's starting to settle. I actually got a number, 2. A receiver and a DB, like at that star position. They're going to go best available position-wise, but those are some needs for them. I've thought that about receiver when I look at it. It's like they seem like they just need 1 or 2 more right there just for numbers-wise because they're bringing in 7 new receivers, as I said earlier, but there's only, remember I was talking about how few scholarship players are returning from last year, just 33. 3 of those are actually receivers. And I'll tell you what, before I get to those 17 P5 guys, I have that number as well somewhere. 33 scholarship players. Yeah, let's see. Of those 33, it's 5 DBs, 7 linebackers, 6 defensive linemen, 3 wide receivers, 4 running backs, 2 tight ends, 3 offensive linemen, 1 kicker, and 1 punter. So the 2 that stand out to me the most are the 3 wide receivers returning and the 3 offensive linemen. Now, the offensive line, 12 offensive new linemen they are bringing in, so 12 and 3, plus inevitably some walk-ons that are already there, some walk-ons that are coming in. I've got a list of walk-ons I'll talk about as well, but Malcolm Fields is one of them from Manville, offensive lineman. So they'll fill in the numbers there because you want to get 18 to 20 offensive linemen, no doubt. So yeah, they're gonna need some of those wide receivers and DBs. That star position we've talked about that enough. Where on the spring they only had 2 on roster after Kamini entered the transfer portal. Pierre Kamini. I know someone DM'd me asking about Pierre Kamini. I think it was One Pack Rips. but he entered after the spring, and so that just left DeMarquise Hayes and Michael Boudin second, new guy from JUCO transfers, brand new, and DeMarquise Hayes is moving over from outside linebacker now playing that DB nickel spot. So they probably need another one there. If not, they'll move over a corner or something like that. But yeah, 17 P5 transfers for the Bobcats, which is incredible. 24 FBS transfers overall, but 17 of them are from P5 teams. Again, 247 Sports. They updated it. Go check that out. I go down memory lane when I look at it with the Bobcat Illustrated at the top. That's the website I wrote for them in 2015. They even paid to fly me out to the Florida State game, and I was very grateful for that. That was one of my top experiences covering college football. Was checking out a game at Florida State in Tallahassee. Man, that's a wild tailgate. All right, so Devin Wright from Boise State, defensive end. We've talked about him running with the first unit in spring. He's already in there cooking. So is this next guy, Caleb Ford DeMint from Washington State, playing corner. He's also been running first team. Seems like, they're bringing in a lot of DBs. What was that number I said? 11 DBs they're bringing in. Caleb Ford DeMint's one of them. So they're transitioning a lot of guys in and out. So I think it's going to be a pretty heavy rotation there. But in the spring, Caleb Ford DeMint was running with the first unit. Malik Hornsby, we know all about Malik coming over from Arkansas. We got to see him in the spring as well. An extremely talented player. Got to see his world-class speed on display this spring. I got to see his arm as well. He definitely has the arm strength. He's got some zip to those passes. I think we've talked about it enough and probably over-litigating it at this point, but his issue is he tends to just stare down one receiver and then take off. But besides that, he's a pretty terrific athlete, and it needs some work in this offense. It wasn't completely smooth whenever they were running in the spring game and leading up to it, and even he admitted it himself in the spring that needs some more work there. But we'll see coming up, because one of the other guys, in fact, let's just talk about him, TJ Finley from Auburn. He's a newer guy. Like Malik Hornsby and TJ Finley are both quarterbacks, as all of you know. After spring, the Bobcats, it seemed like they were really heavy looking for a new quarterback. They were hosting guys like Thomas Castellanos, Bishop Davenport, and then they ended up settling on TJ Finley, coming over from Auburn, started out at LSU. Completely different quarterback than Malik Hornsby, 6'6", listed at 250. He's not much of a dual threat, not really a runner. He's got a big arm, though, and he can be elusive in the pocket, move around, and still create time by moving his body around, but not necessarily a guy who's going to run downfield a whole lot. Now, he can move, but it's not really part of his game as much as, say, like Malik Hornsby. So that's the real interesting part to me, is that how different these two quarterbacks are. And I still don't even know what they're thinking. If they're leaning TJ, if they're leaning Malik, I mean, you have to imagine two SEC quarterbacks transfer in, and even the pitch to get him in, because Malik comes in January. The pitch has to be like, hey man, you're going to come in here and you're going to be the number one guy right off the bat. We're going to give you a real shot. And they did. They ran him with the first unit in the spring. And it seemed like at the end of the spring, they weren't completely satisfied with what they saw from the offense. Wasn't moving like they're used to. Again, number one offense in the nation at Incarnate Word last year. Was it 52 points a game or whatever they were putting up? So they're used to it going a lot smoother, a lot better. And they decided to keep looking around. And it seems like, even if they look at TJ Finley as not necessarily a starter, but someone to shore up depth, they wanted it to be safe all the way through. Because I did hear that they were pretty happy with CJ Rogers. He looked pretty good in the spring. I wouldn't say he looked better than Malik. I think they were very comparable, though. They did some things different. I liked how shifty CJ was. That's what really surprised me, is his ability to also extend the play by just kind of moving outside the pocket. But it seemed that they want to get guys that are gonna, that if they put somebody in and it's not working out, they want to be able to put somebody else in that they're going to trust. And that for me, because I know I've actually had a couple people ask me about my recent punts. They're like, hey, it seems like you're really leaning towards TJ Finley. Why are you already anointing him and everything? And I don't mean to do that, because it really is. It's after seeing what happened with Lane Hatcher last year and how they settled on him being the starter for the whole season. It's just nice to kind of see a coaching staff that it is even if they've promised some guys like, hey, you're going to be the starter, or we're going to give you a real shot to be the starter when you get here, even if they deviate from that when things aren't working, that's not written in stone. I at least like that, because I have fallen in this trap as much as anybody who watches football or analyzes the game or roots for a team or whatever. You fall into the trap of being like, well, maybe the backup quarterback is the solution. If they just put in the backup, like that'll fix the offense, and that's not always that. And so I don't mean to always fall into that trap, but I think right now at this point, June 1st, when we're not in fall camp and we're just litigating everything, it's interesting to think about. And even if Finley coming in, if it just lights a fire under Malik to be better and to go take this starting job in the fall, then it was worth it, just to go get him. But you'd have to imagine the same way you'd imagine the pitch to Malik back in January was the same to TJ in the spring of like, hey, you're an SEC guy coming to the Sun Belt. Like, yeah, we're looking at you to play. So it's they're bringing both guys in, but I don't think either one has been anointed. It's a true competition. Who knows? CJ Rogers may beat them all out. I mean, it's a tall task, but he's a pretty good player himself. And I've mentioned it before, Ty Evans, he's gone now. The North Carolina State transfer, we never got to see him throw a pass here. 5 plays, handed it off each time. Really wanted to see him get in there. Former Elite 11 quarterback. He had so many offers coming out of high school. Chose North Carolina State over a bunch of other schools he could have gone to. And he's hanging it up, and he's moving on from football. And, I don't blame him. If you're not going to get your shot, you move on. But that creates space in this quarterback room, because even there's another PWO, Kaiser, that they're bringing in. I'll talk about him more in a sec, at quarterback, New Mexico State transfer. So they're even changing the scout quarterback, it seems. They're changing everything up with this team. But yeah, the quarterback situation. Now, I'm not anointing TJ Finley or Malik Hornsby. I think it's a legitimate competition. You don't get two guys of that caliber and not think that's going to be the case. And of course, I got to mention PJ Hatter. He's been on the pod. PJ saw they all reported to camp this week. That's why this class, it seems like it's slowing down. It hasn't completely come to a stop. Like I said, they're going to get a couple more, but they're all the players are reporting, even the high school guys, PJ Hatter. So it's starting to, they want to get all these guys in before all these workouts and everything start at the beginning of the summer, which is different than what we saw from Spavital's classes last year and the year before, where these transfer heavy classes where they're kind of trickling in later on, where even like CJ Rogers, who I was just talking about, he came along like late July last year. Doesn't seem like that's what they want to do. They want to get these guys in early, have them in the summer workouts, getting bigger, stronger, learning the scheme, all that good stuff. So that's why it's a good time to fully like put our hands around this class and talk about it fully. And we'll talk about more players as soon as they come on. But I'm ready to get to 2024. I was just at a football camp this morning, G.J. Kinney football camp. Over 200 players there, 2024 guys, 2025 guys, 2026, and even 2027. They even offered a 2027 player. I tweeted about him at a Waco Midway. Just finished 8th grade, already getting an offer. So, I mean, they're going hard after these high school prospects as well. So I want to talk about 2024. And even talking about the difference in trying to end the class at the beginning of June, or wrap up the class with all these transfers at the beginning of June, as opposed to continuing to trickle it through June, July. That's one difference. Another difference is how aggressively they are going after the younger high school prospects. So not isolating these Texas high school coaches. They're still holding camps with all these guys that are 24, 25, 26, class of, not age-wise, I should say. They're all like actually 14, 15, 16, but they're class of 24, 25, 26. And it's still creating this good relationship with these high school coaches, with the Texas High School Association. I mean, we see them post pictures where they're wearing Texas High Schools Association hats. And you know, and their offices are right here in San Marcos. So it's good that they have a good relationship with them. But that's also a difference in Kinney's strategy. It is very transfer heavy, as we just said. 37 of them, 24 of them are FBS level. It is incredibly transfer heavy, and even more so than Spavital. It's a different strategy, different long plan. It seems, you know, going after these younger guys and everything. But there we go. I totally deviated from this list. But you know, I'll do a quick. So I'm talking about the 17 Power 5 transfers for Texas State. I'm talking about Devin Wright, Boise State defensive end, Caleb Ford DeMint, Washington State is a corner, Malik Hornsby, Arkansas quarterback, TJ Finley, Auburn quarterback, and then Joshua Eaton. Now we're back on track. Oklahoma corner. He was getting in there with the first unit as well, even playing a little bit of offense. He is the juice man for this team, just getting everybody jacked up. Seems like he's got a ton of energy out there. I'm very much anticipating seeing him out there. Darius Jackson from Mizzou, he's playing safety. Seems like he was going to be a first unit guy. Then he had an injury that kept him out towards the end of spring. Connor Fox, he's a tight end out of Kansas State. He was wearing the red jersey in the spring, which means he just has a lingering injury and they don't want him to participate in contact drills and get hit and re-injure whatever's happening with him. But he was just still out there in pads and everything. So he's healthy enough, but just not enough for contact. Drew Donnelly, receiver from Cincinnati, speedster. He's running with the first unit in the spring, but they've brought in a lot of new guys since then. So we'll see if he still goes there. Seem like you'll see a lot of him at like kick returner, everything like that. He's supposedly the fastest guy on the team. You know, it's between him and Malik Hornsby apparently, and Malik thinks it's him, but I'm sure Drew Donnelly thinks he's the guy. But Marcus Alexander, offensive lineman from Oklahoma, interior offensive lineman, big guy. Bray Walker, also an offensive lineman from Oklahoma. We've had him on the pod. Some of you heard that one. Great. That was great when he talked all about, just overcoming some of his issues. And he's a 5-star coming out of high school, and he just wants to go out there and prove to people that he is still that 5-star. And he's coming to Texas State, 6'7", 350 pounds, big guy. That might be your starting right side of the offensive line right there. Marcus Alexander at right guard and Bray Walker at right tackle. That's what side they played at Oklahoma. Derek Brown from Texas. He was a linebacker at Texas. He's going to play defensive end. Talked a lot about him. It's a wrap. That's him. He wrapped it up. He's a Bobcat. Going to play that Viper position. Gain some weight. It's like 6'4", 220. They want him to gain some more weight so he can put his hand in the dirt and go after the quarterback. Caleb Coleman from West Virginia, one of 2 West Virginia guys. He'll play safety. The other West Virginia guy is Jalen Shelton. He'll play corner. They both committed around the same time. Alex Harkey from Colorado, one of Dion's cast-offs, I guess, is now coming to Texas State, and he's a local guy, so I'm pretty excited to see Alex Harkey. I know when he was in high school, there was somebody they were going after. We'll show him your Louis too, Alex. Okay, buddy? Don't let him get to you. Danny Valenzuela, center from Arizona State. We talked about him a little bit. Sean Shaw, Iowa State receiver. He was that secret commit, if anybody remembers that episode, a few episodes back. 6'6" receiver, big target, somebody they definitely needed. They needed a big target. Could maybe even use another one, but I'm pretty happy when I look at like Sean Shaw and some of these other receivers I'll talk about here in a sec. But the last of those 17 P5 guys is Christian Rory, defensive lineman out of Duke. I actually interviewed him for Twitter, put that on the Win Now or Get Bent on Twitter. There's a video of that, me talking to Christian Rory, and came to that Texas State's junior day, and I was able to catch up with him. Big guy, big defensive lineman, 6'6", 300 pounds himself. A lot of these guys, they have increased the profile of this roster. Just the average height and weight of this team is way bigger than it was last year. So that's 17 P5 guys. 24 total FBS guys, as we were talking about before. So there's seven other guys that are in that category that aren't P5. But Dan Foster from Marshall, first unit linebacker, he was playing a whole lot out there in the spring. Shadid Ahmed from Marshall as well, slot wide receiver, is getting in there with the second units, who like Cole Wilson and Ashton Hawkins have a lot of that lockdown with the first unit, but Shadid Ahmed was getting in there quite a bit. He's a speedster himself. Tavian Coleman, Utah State defensive lineman, getting in there with the first unit as well himself. Jason Gold from Northwestern, he committed during the spring. Haven't seen him yet. Bo Corrales from SMU. We all know Bo. Bo was committed to the Bobcats 7 years ago. Went to North Carolina for a while. Played at SMU last year. He's got 1 year of eligibility left because of some injuries and COVID and everything extended his career. So now he's finally a Bobcat full circle. Promised me he'd come on the pod when he got to San Marcos. So I'm going to hold him to it. I'm even going to call him out on the show right now. But Bo Corrales from SMU, 6'4" target at wide receiver. I'm excited to see what he can do with his final season. Simon Gonzalez, another SMU player, tight end. We talked about him earlier. He went down this week. He's number 51, most recent commit. And then Chase Todd from Houston at offensive line, kind of interior offensive lineman there. So yeah, there you go. There's the 24 FBS. There's 37 transfers total though, as we were talking about. So that leaves 13 other FCS transfers, which is the second most amongst those newcomers, as we were talking about earlier with Chris Coots' thread. 13 is just below 14 of Colorado. But those 13 FCS guys, John Blunt Jr. from Eastern Kentucky, corner coming in. Sean Holton from Incarnate Word also coming in. Prepare yourself. 13 of these FCS guys are Incarnate Word, so I'm about to rattle through that list of them real fast. Cole Wilson, wide receiver, just talked about him. He was playing a lot with the first unit, probably going to return some kicks. He's a speedster himself at that slot receiver spot. Sam Latham, defensive lineman. He's the most recent one of these Incarnate Word commits, 6'6", 270 at defensive end. Caleb Culp, safety out of Incarnate Word. Early leader for this team, got a lot of praise in the spring from the coaching staff. Dorian Strawn, offensive lineman from Incarnate Word. Nash Jones, offensive lineman from Incarnate Word. Nash Jones probably might be the starting left tackle, depending on some of these other 12 offensive linemen, what they're thinking about there. But Nash Jones was the number one guy in the spring. A lot of these Incarnate Word guys were. Strawn was, Jones was, and so is this next guy, Caleb Johnson, another Incarnate Word transfer, getting first unit at guard. Emeka and Hameto Abibo, two Incarnate Word offensive linemen, twin brothers. They also came on down. They were here in the spring as well. Joey Hobart from Utah Tech. Every time I watch his tape, I really like what I see from Joey. And then Bryce Cage from Southeastern, defensive lineman. And then Ishmael Mahdi from Houston Christian. No longer Houston Baptist, Houston Christian University over there. So yeah, lots of new names, lots of new players. You know what? I'm looking around, and I guess we're left with 14 others, the high school players and the JUCO players. I didn't make a list, but handy dandy 247 Sports, it's a third plug for them, man. They got to start paying me now. Gonna make Austin Patchmaster jealous. Austin.patchmaster.com. That's what this segment's brought to you by. There you go. Get the plug in there for them. But let's talk some of these high school and JUCO guys. 14 of them, 7 on each side. The number one I want to talk about is actually on the top of the list here on 247. It's Justin DeLeon, offensive lineman from H.M. King in Kingsville, Texas. He is a 6'3", 300-pound offensive lineman, had interest from Baylor and some other big-time programs. Ended up kind of being a surprise on signing day for the Bobcats. And there were some questions on, like, is he actually going to make it? What's going on there? How did he end up with the Bobcats? But tweeted out a picture of his nameplate on a Texas State locker. So Justin DeLeon is here. That's good. That might be the best offensive lineman high school prospect. I guess there's only 2, and I don't want to say that against Bamie Badusi because he's pretty good too. So I'll just say he's a pretty good offensive lineman prospect coming in for the Bobcats. Let's see. On this list next, we have Jalazen Landry from C.E. King out of Houston. Not to be confused with H.M. King in Kingsville. That's where DeLeon's from. He's Jalazen Landry's from C.E. King in Houston. defensive end, 6'3", 240. Pretty good player himself. Chris Don Jr. from Horn High School in Mesquite, Texas. Remember, G.J. Kinney is from Mesquite, so he said he's always going to recruit these Mesquite players, but he's a receiver, looks like a slot guy at 5'7", 155. Just mentioned Bamie Badusi from Mansfield Timberview, 6'6", 310 pounds, offensive tackle, one of two offensive linemen that they're bringing in for 2023 that's coming out of high school. Scholarship offensive lineman, I should say. They're looking at some more preferred walk-ons. PJ Hatter out of Westfield, quarterback. We know a lot about PJ. Terrific player, lefty. I think he's got a really bright future. Derek Morning from Kilgore Junior College, a linebacker. Michael Boudin, we talked about him. He was getting a lot of play at that star position, that nickel position that's what they call it, star. He was getting in there quite a bit. Local guy from Buda. Denaro Davenport, also from Kilgore Junior College. He's a running back. We saw him in the spring a little bit. Him and Ishmael Mahdi. I probably didn't talk about Mahdi enough, but Mahdi looked terrific in the spring, and in the spring game specifically. Kept a lot of drives alive with big runs and just consistently getting yards every time he touched the ball, and saw a lot of good stuff from Denaro Davenport as well. So the two new running backs looking pretty good. It's a pretty heavy running back room. I wonder if there will be some attrition there. If, like we talk about, some guys who are walking away post spring, they've already got the degree and all that good stuff. If maybe they are also stepping away. So I wonder if something like that's happening at running back, just because we haven't heard anybody enter the transfer portal. Now, if these guys, they enter the transfer portal, they want to keep playing somewhere else. But so we hear about it on Twitter. They announce it, so we all know about it. But a lot of times if they just hang it up and they're just done playing, just want to take their degree and go get a job, they're not going to announce it. I mean, I mentioned Ty Evans earlier, the quarterback. He didn't announce it. Actually, DM him and talk to him about it. I know Jordan Mitchell, defensive lineman. He's kind of doing the same deal, I believe, unless he's in the transfer portal and I'm not aware of it. So that's where we see a lot of that. So yeah, I wonder if that's going to be the situation at running back, because these two new guys, they can go as well, and that puts about seven in that running back room. And I know they want to use a lot. G.J. Kinney was talking about it in spring. Gus Malzahn is a guy he looks up to a whole lot, and that's what he does, is he uses 5 to 7 running backs. So it seems like he wants to kind of go with the same strategy. Marion, I guess I missed a high school guy, Marion Atwood out of Horn High School, DB. He's a teammate with Chris Don Jr. Not sure if he's safety or corner or what's going on with Marion, but we'll find out. Terry Webb, defensive lineman, another guy from Kilgore, getting a lot of these Kilgore Junior College guys, 6'3", 300 pounds. I loved his film when they brought him on board, and I was just checking out everyone's footage. I loved what he bring, and we saw him some of it in the spring. He's just a stuffer. He'll get in between the gaps and really wreak some havoc. So I liked what I saw there. We'll see. It's a pretty thick defensive line group. Numbers wise, they're thick humans, but I mean, there's a lot of them. There's a plethora of them. How many do we? 10 defensive linemen, 10 new defensive linemen. So we'll see if he can break through the rotation, beat out some of these other guys. But I think he will at least heavily be used. Dontavius Burrows, they have him listed at safety, but he's actually a linebacker. Tyler Junior College, he's coming in. Bobby Crosby's listed as a safety, but he's actually coming in as a corner. Khalil Alexander, they have him listed as an edge outside linebacker. He's coming in as a defensive end. So I guess I didn't say Bobby Crosby from Cisco and Khalil Alexander from Coffeyville. So there you go. That's 51. Did you enjoy that? Was that good podcasting? We'll find out. You guys can let me know in the comments what that was like. But I sure enjoyed that. I mean, and like I was saying, there might be a couple more to talk about, and there's a ton of 2024 guys to talk about. So I personally love recruiting just because it tells you where this program is. I mean, it's more so this year than any other year with 51 new guys, the 61.3% turnover rate we're talking about. I mean, that is just that tells you all you need to know, that this is going to be a completely different team. Whether that yields completely different results in the positive or the negative, we don't know. I mean, it's June 1st, but you have to imagine that when they move on from so many players that it wasn't working, and they go and they infuse it with a lot of guys who have a lot of experience, it seems like it on paper it would work. It's a lot. But it's a lot of speculation. We'll see how it all looks when it's put together. I mean, just the 17 P5 transfers alone is incredible. I mean, 24 FBS transfers alone. That used to be one class, when it was the 25 cap, and now there is no 25 cap. And I'm sorry if I keep bringing this up. It just seems like this one confuses some people, but the 25 cap allotment is annual. It used to be. This used to be the case. It's not for this year because of COVID, and the transfer portal has made things all crazy. But there used to be 25 scholarships every single year, brand new. And you get a total of 85. Now, the 85 total is still there. Texas State, when we talk about 51 new guys and the 33 other ones, that puts them at 84, which means they do have another one. So that's why when I look at that 33 and I hear they want 2 more, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm off by 1 on the 33 count. Shout out to my guy Cameron Dean, by the way, helping me out with those numbers. I should have shouted him out earlier. But that tells me that maybe that 33 number is still off. But that 25 is gone. They're thinking about bringing it back, but with the transfer portal and everything, who knows if that 25 annual cap will still exist with the transfer portal. It doesn't seem like it can with guys transferring in and out. It seems like you need to open that up. The 85 cap, I totally understand. 85 total for each team. But that 25, leave it open, or you put a cap on it that's like 40. I don't know, 40 even seems. I mean, look at Texas State at 51. Like, how can you cap somebody there? But yeah, taking advantage of that this year and basically getting 2 recruiting classes in one. And they always say coaches, they need lots of time to get their guys and to actually to have their real team in place. But they've gone out and got a brand new team already, and a lot of them are really good players. So excited for the fall. Excited to talk about it all summer as well. We got lots of good stuff to litigate and talk about. I was just talking about the quarterback situation. We can argue about that one all summer. Oh yeah, okay. I guess I have another note here for the stadium naming rights. I forgot about that. I should have taken more notes on that, but I'll go ahead and read what they put out. Because if you didn't hear, Texas State is partnering with ISE, and that stands for Independent Sports and Entertainment. It's a company, and they're going to help them identify a Bobcat Stadium naming sponsor, which in essence means Bobcat Stadium may no longer be Bobcat Stadium, where it's Bobcat Stadium presented by, or HEB Bobcat Stadium. I don't know what it'll look like, but they're going to change it. And a lot of you won't like it. My initial reaction is like, oh man, I love Bobcat Stadium, but this is a great opportunity to get some more money into this program. So take advantage, get that money any way that you can, any way that leads to wins. What would you rather have? Your mascot named after the stadium, or a winning program named after a corporation? The answer is the second one, for the record. But I'm going to read this release from Texas State. This is on their website, TXST. Texas State Athletics announced its partnership with Independent Sports and Entertainment, ISE, to identify a naming rights partner for Bobcat Stadium, home of Texas State football. Texas State will consult with ISE on prospective partners to become the first ever naming rights partner of Bobcat Stadium. At one of the state's fastest growing universities, ISE is a sports marketing agency with a focus on revenue generation for sports and entertainment organizations through premium sales opportunities. ISE is heavily involved in college venue naming rights, having successfully run 5 searches in the past year and a half on university campuses across the country. Let's get to a quote here. This one's from Don Coryell, Texas State Director of Athletics. We are excited for this quote. We are excited for this partnership and eager to work with ISE on this incredible naming rights opportunity. With a highly visible stadium in one of the most competitive conferences in the country and at a growing university in the best location in the country, we look forward to finding a great partner that is aligned with our vision for Texas State football and our athletic department. The naming rights partnership will help us continue to invest in Texas State student athletes and support strategic partners who believe in the Bobcats, end quote. That's honestly the quote from Don is the main part that I wanted to get across. Yeah, it opens up a lot more opportunities. So if you feel a certain type of way, you don't love it, I think this is part of truly being at the level that Texas State wants to be. It's taking advantage of these areas where you can sell and make money. So I'm all for it. I mentioned HEB. Windauer Get-Ben Stadium has a nice ring to it. I don't think I have enough sponsors for that yet. That would be pretty sweet. It sends a nice message for teams coming in as well. But not likely. Probably be like HEB, AT&T. I don't know, one of those big dogs. I'd like HEB. That'd be a good one. But that'll do it. That'll wrap it up for this episode 101. Like I said, no guest this week. I'm gonna have lots of guests coming up. I want to do some of the coaches that we haven't talked to. We talked to some in the spring, but there's so many of the other guys that we haven't gotten to know yet. Some of these new players, some of the players that are around from last season still, even some Bobcat figures from the past, or even of course David Bailiff. I want to get him on this summer. That's the one name that I'll really put out there. But yeah, like I was saying, WNOGB.com. Check out our merch store. Got lots of cool gear on there. Going to continue to grow that one as well. On the YouTube page, on the Apple, Spotify, wherever you are, continue to subscribe and download and like and comment and all that good stuff. You can even go make another account and subscribe again, or hack your friend's account, your loved one's account, and subscribe and give us extra views. And maybe don't do all that last stuff I said, but the first stuff about liking and subscribing, do all of that. That would be great. It helps us grow, helps us to get awesome sponsors like austin.patchmaster.com, who you can hit up for any of your drywall needs, any damaged drywalls, any popcorn ceiling removal, all that good stuff. Hit our guys up in the Austin metro area at 512-200-3888. 512-200-3888, austin.patchmaster.com. One last plug for those guys before we wrap it all up, because I very much appreciate it. Michael Clements over there. But yeah, continue supporting Sickos. I appreciate it. And we're going to keep bringing this content. I've got a nice, cool camera I'm looking in. I know my guy, the Wizard of Windauer Get Bent, Zachary Webb, is pretty upset that I'm using his really nice, awesome camera. But man, I look great, and I'm very much appreciative to it. A few more sponsors. I'll get my own camera, bud, okay? But thanks for letting us use your tools, and to Zachary for just making the podcast better with everything he does, increasing the quality of it, increasing what we can do, especially with video like this right now. And shout out to all the people that commented on YouTube. I won't waste time pulling up YouTube to talk about all the commenters, but I will on the next episode. I know I saw some familiar faces getting in the YouTube comments. I made sure to go on my own and like them all and stuff, but continue to do that for us. We appreciate y'all. And any of the summer content that you want to talk about, any topics you want to hear us just mess around and talk about, hit us with ideas. It's with no games and everything, I'm planning on doing a bunch of interviews and talking recruiting and wondering what if and what's going to happen in this fall and all that. But if you have any other segment ideas or anything you want us to hit you with, feel free to contact me at all. On Twitter, Kef_C. You can hit me up at WNOGBKef at Gmail as well, WNOGBKef at gmail.com. Contact me there with any inquiries about the pod or any inquiries about sponsoring as well. It's always cool. That's where you can reach us on there. Thanks again, you sickos. None of this is possible without you. All the way to 101. Can't wait to get to 1,000. How about that, huh? All right, everybody. Win now or get bent.